Yeah, this is one maybe Charles and I might disagree with, but I like the Chargers draft. I think they still do need help on the interior. I will acknowledge that right off the bat, the interior of the offensive line. But I think getting Omarion Hampton where they did was a good move for them because I think he fits the system, and they absolutely just needed more out of that run game. We know they want to be a run-heavy offense. They needed just more. I think they needed more consistency, like down-to-down success rate, which I do think in time, Hampton can be that guy, but to start, I think getting Najee Harris helps there. But Najee Harris is going to give you 0.0 explosive ability, which is what Hampton is going to provide you. I also think that I liked Hampton's ability as a receiver when I watched him before the combine, and that is an element that Justin Herbert grew to lean on with Austin Eckler as the starting running back there. So I think that's a big, just again, I think it checks the box of what the coaching staff wants. I think checks the box of what the quarterback wants, and ultimately they just needed pop. So the first round pick is nice. Trey Harris is, I couldn't think of a better receiver of what they need, especially because what I love about him going to LA is that they have Mike Williams there. Like, Mike Williams is not for long, right? We know that.
The shadow of Mike Williams.
The shadow of Mike Williams. But while Harris, who is going to need some ramp-up time coming from that Ole Miss offense and the fact that over 40% of his routes were go and curl, he's going to need some time. He's going to need some, development. They have Mike Williams there to kind of bring him along slowly in September so that maybe by October, November, he's ramped up to be a little bit more of what they need come hopefully playoff time. He's like, all right, now he's running more of a full and complete route tree. So I like that pick there. Jamari Caldwell's like the beef they need in the interior. And I also really liked their 5th round wide receiver pick, Keandre Lambert-Smith. Very different type of receiver. He was one of my favorite like day 3 guys that I thought he was going to go day 3. I liked other guys who ended up going on day 3 better than him, but he brings some speed. Like if you look at his route chart, all the deep routes are green, so he'll bring some ability to take the top off, but more of like a move around guy. So I think offensively, they took the right bets here. And then they took a couple guys like R.J. Mickens and then the kid from Florida in the 3rd day of the draft, which is just kind of classic what I think they do.
How many receivers did you chart this year?
26.
26.
And honestly, like Ricky White was one that I wish I had gotten to.
Yeah.
There was a few that
He's
went
a
like...
teamer.
All right, that makes me feel a little better. There was a few going off the board in the 4th round. I was like, uh-oh. Like, I didn't Dyke, I didn't
I
get
want to talk about a couple later because it's like there's a couple I was like, man, I watched a game or two of that guy, but I was so comfortable saying day 3. Like, I didn't have to worry about you.
I saw Hayden Wink's post that, like, the 2 guys to fade that were, rumored like day 2 guys were Alec Manor and Jalen Royals, and I agreed with that. I thought those were 4th round players. They ended up going on day 3, but it seemed like because they both have big flaws, but upside, but big flaws. But before those guys were coming off the board, the NFL seemed to just be, as Hayden said, like sorting by speed. Like these guys who just ran fast 40s were like, we'll take those in the 4th round. And there was a couple of them were not on my radar.
Absolutely. What'd you think about this draft class, the Chargers?
It's like for me, it's like a team that wants to play a meat and potato style of football, but they got candy for dinner. Is kind of how I look at this draft. I don't know. I don't think I think that in a vacuum, Hampton, Chargers, sick player, team that wants to run the football, but a team that can't run the football. And I don't think that this is the player that fixes this for them. The Trey Harris pick, I was a little, I don't know, that I could see him just kind of becoming a ghost in that offense where you're just kind of a sacrificial X. I get a little confused with Harris because I don't think he's actually that fast. And
He didn't time fast.
Yeah, he didn't time fast.
And when you look at the Ole Miss offense, there's so much space that I think people who aren't that fast, like Jalen Hyatt in the Tennessee offense, he's running like mid 4.4s, and we're talking like he's a deep threat. But when you have that much space, you can become one. But that space is not available in the NFL. So I just get a little bit confused on where they think they are. If they got a little bit overzealous with maybe how they got to the playoffs last year, and they didn't really have much introspection on how they lost that game. Because Omarion Hampton, you add him to that roster, you're still losing 40 to whatever you did in that game because you can't block, and you're too reliant on Justin Herbert. And now you've added a raw receiver with Ladd McConkey. I just don't really see how much they've changed. And I don't think that that's good enough.
I will say on Harris's speed, because I'm with you that I was a little surprised as he was billed as a deep threat that he ran a 4.5, and I'd only worked like 2 games on him before the combine, so I didn't have like a bullish take on how fast he was. But actually, the fact that he's not that fast and he's still a useful deep receiver is kind of what I liked about him, because I think he shows like, and it's flashes, right? So he still needs to develop, but I think he does have some pretty good ability to like actually stack and time these routes so that he can get that little separation as a go route runner, a post route runner. But there's no doubt that he could be a little bit sacrificial to start, but I'm hoping by like year 2 he could be more of a real deal X receiver.
Greg Roman is the guy who's going to develop him. It's a little dicey.
The Ravens had a lot of success developing
Yeah,
receivers,
sure
right?
did.
Yeah.
That is a fair retort.
49ers before that.
Yeah, they missed on
and
like
the
every
Bills.
single wide receiver pick for like 2 decades.
Yeah. No,
Fair point.
I was pretty harsh on the Chargers grade. I gave him a C. And it was I do like the Hampton pick. It's like one of those, I'm kind of like reiterating what Charles said here, where I like it, but then I thought, okay, here comes the line picks. Here comes the beef. Okay, here comes the beef picks. Okay, wait, no, here comes the. I just kept waiting for him to take offensive line because I thought that was where they should be going in this draft. So it's one of those where it's like, maybe I'm bitter about that, so I'm not knocking him down. But still, the Harris discussion is something I'm trying to figure out too. It's like that God, I wish him and Quentin Johnson could just become one player. But like Johnson's the horizontal guy, Harris is the vertical intermediate guy. But with Harris is that I do think his transition will be smooth. This was my bullish take on it because, all he runs is goes, posts, and curls. In this offense, there's a lot of goes and posts because of all the play action stuff. So, and overs, which I think over routes, which are the kind of like the more, things working across the formation, those are the ones I actually am bullish about with Harris because of his catching range and everything. So kind of in between you guys, Caldwell, I think Tierra Tart was a great stopgap guy for him, still is. But they're trying to build up the spine of the defense because of just how they want to play. So it's ones like I understand what they're trying to do, just ended up not really liking some of the other spots where I thought they should fill out. I did like Gadsden too from Syracuse, the tight end. Fun little project T tight end, kind of like a hybrid receiver tight end that can get on day 3. Get a little more speed in the offense.
It felt a year early for them, this draft did.
This felt like the cherry on top draft as opposed to I think they should have been still.
Dog, you got your butt kicked the last time we saw you. That game was not remotely competitive.
Right.
But I think a big part of that is they didn't have any explosive players outside of one guy.
And they still can't block.
Well, we'll see about that.
Still like Hampton a lot. He was still running back 2 for me.